What's up YouTube? Today I'll be replacing the CV axles on the '09 Mitsubishi Galant, but the process will be similar for most modern cars with front wheel and all-wheel drive, just minor differences like fastener sizes, their locations, along with various suspension components that you gotta move out the way. CV axle or constant velocity axle will transfer power from the transaxle or transmission or differential to the wheels. The CV boot covers fully greased ball bearings that allow for flexibility while driving. The outer CV joint connects to the vehicle's wheels, while the inner CV axle connects to the transaxle or differential. The most common symptom associated with a worn out CV axle is a clicking sound when turning corners. You can also perform a visual inspection, and if you notice a tear in the boot and grease all over the place, then that CV axle should be replaced. So you want to begin by removing the tire. You'll need a 21mm socket for these lug nuts. If you don't have access to air tools or an electric impact, then you'll need to remove the center cap, put the tire back on, and crack loose that axle nut. You'll need a 17mm deep socket to remove the nut from your tie rod. Then thread the nut back on so it sits flush and whack it with the hammer to loosen it. But we're going to leave the nut on here for the time being to help with the stability of the steering knuckle for later. Remove those two 14mm caliper bolts. And here's the location of the two caliper bracket bolts. Both of these are 17mm. Then remove the caliper and bracket. The rotor may want to come along as well. Just pry it loose and use a bungee cord or a length of rope to tie the caliper to the strut coil so it's out of the way. Then remove this cotter pin. You'll need needle nose pliers, a hammer, and every cuss word in your vocabulary. This axle nut is a 32mm. Then thread the axle nut back on so it sits flush with the tip, then smack it with a hammer to free it from the wheel hub. Then remove the axle nut and the flat washer. Then with the 24mm deep socket and a 24mm wrench, remove the knuckle to strut bolt. Even though I don't condone the use of non-impact grade sockets with an impact wrench, it's all I got right now. It may require some wiggling to get these bolts out. Now remove the nut for your tie rod and remove the ABS bracket from your strut with the 12mm socket. Now we can push our axle through the wheel hub. So now we'll just crawl up under here, and this is the side that goes into the transaxle. It's held in with the C-clip and you'll need a pry bar to pop it loose. Once you pop the axle out, be ready because you're going to lose some transmission fluid, so have a catch pan handy. And now we can pull our axle from the vehicle. As with everything, you want to compare the new part with the old part to make sure they're identical. If the old one has an ABS toe ring, make sure the new one has one as well. Now feed your new part back towards the transaxle. And I'm going to show you how to use the steering knuckle to pop it back into place. Feed the opposite side through the wheel hub and quickly push your steering knuckle forward. That was the sound of it popping back into place, but you want to get up under there and check and make sure it's in correctly by pulling it. If it can be pulled out, then it's not in correctly. Then put your knuckle to strut bolts back into place, and I'll be using a little anti-seize on the threads. Then reattach your tie rod and tighten that nut down. This axle nut gets torqued down to 167 foot-pounds. The new axle should have come with a new cotter pin, so make sure you use it. Don't use the old one. Now I can visibly tell these rotors are past their expiration date, and it's obvious from the many grooves and rings. No one knows when the last time they've been replaced. From the amount of rust, I can tell it's been a while though. So from here, you would just put your rotor back on, bolt your caliper back up in its bracket, put the tire on, and you're done. That's how you replace the CV axle. I appreciate y'all for watching, so until next time, y'all stay tuned.